Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, everybody. This is Reviving Mississippi, and your host, DeKeither Stamps. We got our co-host here, Mr. Jason Clark. What's going on, JC?
Commissioner, I'm glad to be in the place, Commissioner. How you been doing?
We're doing well.
Yes, sir.
Doing well. Everything's going well, and we're working through issues. You all right?
I'm excited, man. You know what I'm saying? This has been a great week.
It has.
Yeah, it's been a great week, to be honest.
It has. We got some good announcements. There is, first off, as we begin every show, we always ask you to remember those people who are going through bereavement. Every week, there are just people that are just dealing with life, and life is hard already.
Yes, sir.
So I just ask everybody to reach out to folks long after you're done eating chicken and all that. Come on back around the next weeks and months later, because the challenge of dealing with loved ones and family members and friends and loss, it takes friends.
That's true.
It takes all of us, friends and family, to reach out, put our arms around each other in a personal way. I know people post stuff on Facebook and then they turn around and, you know, they share it or they put a little comment, but that's not acknowledgement nor comfort. That's just a little bit of, you know, call folks personally, go by the house, put your hand, and Handy lost his sister. That's my cousin. Again, every day, put your arms around folks in a real way. I know we done got where we social media stuff.
Yes, sir.
But we in this real world. And I'm telling you, there ain't nothing like, you don't have to say nothing. There ain't nothing like a real friend putting a hand on your shoulder. Nothing like it. No card can match it. No tweet, text, or post. You ain't got to say nothing, but a real friend or even a real family member just walking up to you and putting their hand on your shoulder. Empathy, ladies and gentlemen. Not sympathy. Not sympathy. Empathy. Empathy is what we need in today's society because we're so quick to respond. But sometimes a response is not what's necessary. A post is not what's necessary. Sometimes it just takes being a friend. So be a friend so you can have a friend during your time of need. I want to recognize the underwriters for today's show. First and foremost, Mr. Michael Jordan. The Michael Jordan Transportation Service is an awesome friend. Okay? Awesome friend. More importantly, he offers great service. You can go to www.mjstransportation1.com for your transportation needs. And he's always looking for good folks. And if you want some good food versus fast food, they don't pay me to advertise it. They don't give me any money. They don't give me a discount. But if you want some good food versus fast food, check out Stamp SuperBurgers. They offer great quality services. All the time. Consistent. You're going to get the same whole cow between two pieces of bread that's tasted to the last drop. Or if you're Jason Clark,
come on now, bring it home.
You got to get that whole garden between two pieces of bread. That veggie burger they got over there. You ain't got to go get some impossible meat. What they call it, Jason? Impossible?
Yeah, I think it's impossible.
But they don't have no impossible. They just got a veggie burger. You pick that thing up and you got a barbecue garden in your mouth. And it's good.
Sweet potato fries.
I like the lemon pepper fries. Either way it go, it's always great service, right where they always been doing what they've always done. I want to start off today's show with a young lady who has been on a journey all the way from Washington County, Mississippi.
Come on now.
She borrowed her way all the way down here to go to college, and she found herself in a situation where she had a desire to lead. Not a desire to follow for long, because she followed for a little bit, but she's like a raging tiger. She stepped forward and offered herself up for public service, which many people don't do.
That's true.
And you know, these judge races, Jason, we always a little finicky about these judge races.
You're right.
You know, because judges, they need everybody to help them get elected.
Everybody.
But when it's time to help you get elected,
Tell the truth,
the law doesn't allow me to participate in the campaign to get you elected. But thank you for helping me get elected. Holler at you in 4 years. But I will say this: Miss Bridgette Morgan's been a great friend, and
Mm-hmm.
she has been active and aggressive, even in the sights of what many would consider greater and more career advancing opportunities.
Yes.
I can tell you personally that she has turned away a myriad of different opportunities in order to be here. Now, I will give one last disclaimer. That's why I don't endorse judges, because judges don't endorse me. Everybody's welcome to come on here. I'm friends with all the folks in this race, but I did want to open up a space for her to share her story, share her journey, but more importantly, share her vision
There you go.
for where she wants to take the Hinds County Judiciary from the role that she's here. Welcome to the show, Ms. Morgan, Attorney Morgan. Thank you for the work you've done. Anybody who has labored as long as you have in the city of Jackson, working in the city and in the police department, and also in the whole process of justice should be applauded. So tell the folks a little bit about yourself and that I've left out.
You know what? You don't have to give up too much. I thank you so much for recognizing the labor that I have put in, because you know I'm one of the people who work and don't take pictures. So you would have to have been in the courtroom, been in the office with me to know what kind of work that I put in for the city of Jackson since I've been a lawyer a little bit over 10 years, and I started my career here. And so what I want to bring to Sub-District 2, this is the seat that was previously held by Larita Cooper Stokes. I saw a problem, and when I see a problem, I try to figure out what the solution is. And so in this race, I believe I'm the solution. What are the problems, you ask? There is a problem with transparency, right? I would like to bring transparency to the court system. It's important for me to allow to educate folk who come before a judge, right? People will plead to something I don't know why they plead to what they plead to. But it's important to educate our folks so they'll know how these things travel with them once they're long gone from the courtroom. One of the bigger issues, Judge, I forget his name that fast, but he is the chief judge at the county right now. So he gets to decide who goes where. One of the things that I would like if I'm elected here is to be able to control the juvenile part of it. And I'm talking about the criminal part of it, not respect the judge. He's not her part. But there's a criminal part for the youth, where the youth currently go straight to the adult courtroom, and the judge presides over their case in terms of bond and whatnot. They're housed at Henley Young, but they go through the adult process. And so I would like to take on that burden and to allow the juveniles to come before, stay in youth court jurisdiction until I decide when we should transfer it to adult jurisdiction, or if they waive their sales into the adult jurisdiction.
So would there be an age process, a competency process, or would it just be, because we got some folks who are 18.
Under 18.
So just be age and competency.
Yeah, it would be age and competency now.
And violation.
And violation. And then there are rules that say if it's a gun involved, you should charge them as an adult. But there's also some latitude for the judge to decide, I want to keep this case, depending on the facts and circumstances in the youth court jurisdiction. And so I would like to create that database and that set of folk. Also, there's the issue with timeliness. Folk oftentimes come to court on a lunch break, right? Come to court for a loved one, and they took off work. And so you have judges, and I'm not talking to any judges, particular judges in Hinds County, but I practice all over the state. And there are judges who show up 1 or 2 hours late. And then this person, can't get off the next day. And then you say, oh, you continue in the case, right? And so to respect folks' time, fairness is a big thing. I teach American government at JSU, and what people don't know is there was never really supposed to be a crossover between the judicial branch and politics. You were supposed to make decisions based on facts and law.
That's right.
And right now, people are making decisions from the bench as a political thing, right? And so I want to take politics out of it, right? I'm not tied to any politician. I'm not tied to I don't owe anybody any favors. So you get who you get if I take the bench. And so that's what I want to really focus on. Safety is an issue as well. So we got to know who is actually, who's a menace, right? And who deserves to have a second chance. I've been a prosecutor and a defense attorney. So I've fought to the tooth and nail to get people locked up who should be locked up, but I've also fought tooth and nail to get people free who should be free.
Let's roll back just a little bit before we dive deep into that portion. Tell folks a little bit about you.
Okay, sure.
And your background as far as growing up, just you as a person, just let folks know, because what I don't know too much about politics. I don't know too much about getting elected, but I do know that when people know a little about you, some of your personal things that you associate with, some of your upbringing, just talk about what was life like growing up in an aspirational space in the Delta.
Man, this is a beautiful question. Second child of 7,
Okay.
right? No politicians in my family, no lawyers in my family. God has made me be the anchor for my family. That means whatever I do, that this is the legacy is happening, being created now, right? And at first it was a heavy burden to carry, and it's like now you realize, okay, my mom's mom, my grandmother died when she was 19. My mom was 4. Okay, didn't meet her dad, right? And then met my dad when I was 8 years old. So you're asking, I'm asking, you're going to vote for a person who won, right? Created their own way. I'm eating surf sandwiches. So we had bread and surf, and then we had pancakes and jelly. We had one or the other, but it went at the same time. You needed to be. And so my mom had 7 children. I remember the 6th child. I remember we didn't have lights. My mom would take the meter on off the house. You know, she would put it back on after 5 when the company closed. And I remember her having that 6th child and bringing that child home and knowing that I can't afford to keep this child. And so she didn't legally allow somebody to adopt him, but there was a young lady who had lost a child not too long before then. And I remember standing there and watching her pass my brother outside the door. Right. Wow. And so he stayed with her. He used to come around and visit. When he was about 2 years old, he was screaming to the top of his lungs because he didn't have a relationship. His mom was that lady, right?
In his mind.
And so he didn't ever get to experience the mom that raised me, you know what I mean, that I knew. So that's a little bit of who I am at the beginning. Then you're talking to someone who started doing micro braids at 14 years old.
So before we so is that where you get the sincere passion for youth justice?
I believe so. It's just, I remember being 5 years old, Commissioner, and I remember passing by a neighborhood and being in the back seat of a car and seeing a homeless person saying to myself, what did he want to be when he grew up? And how did he get here? This is me young and thinking this way. So I can't really tell. I feel like, one, because my grandmother died when she was so young, she got to be living in me. I got to be trying to get whatever legacy she was supposed to have. I must be supposed to be trying to carry that out. That's what it feels like for me. But being the second child of 7, I really was the second mom. And so I grew up really fast. So
would you say in your family or in your siblings, you're the one?
Yeah.
And talk about how I got some really, there's very few people that I can talk to. And I'm just getting this right now, so this is off the cuff.
Yeah.
But I was just on the phone with a very special person talking about them being the one. And in my family, even though my sisters are amazing, I got amazing sisters, right? They are wonderful mothers, parents, professionals, but there's a burden of being the one, you know, and having to perform when everybody expects you to perform. You know, hitting a home run is fine, but when you're in the bottom of the 9th inning, and they call your number, and you got 2 outs and 2 strikes, and it's got to happen right now. The pressure on being the one. So coming from the Delta, coming through Mississippi's education system, going to get your undergrad, and then moving on. Talk about how you have evolved being the one since the age of 5 to today. Talk about that journey.
That journey, because my mom was young, it's realizing nobody was coming to get me. Right? It's realizing that you got to go, you got to eat, right? And you got to go get it. And it was really always been in survival mode. And no, I mean, not really having enough and knowing that I wasn't going to have to wait and ask my mama, because, you know, she can only do so much. So it was like, what you going to do, right? And so once I had somebody ask me one question, and what you going to be when you grow up? And that was a powerful question for me, because it told me that these were not my circumstances forever. This was temporary. And so at 5, I heard her say, she was talking to her friend. She's like, she's gonna be a lawyer. She loves to read, to read. And that's how I got it planted in me to be a lawyer. And then I went on to my first grade class, and it was a bulletin board. What do you want to be when you grow up? And had a little cutout. There was a white man in a suit. I said, I want to wear what he got on.
You wore a suit.
A suit. I wanted with that briefcase and that suit. I wanted that. And so we kept it like that. And so just going forward through high school and just always just I on the prize.
Before we leave high school, what were some of the things you were interested in
high school?
In high school,
homecoming court. Believe it or not, I was a tomboy up until the 9th grade.
Okay.
Yeah, when I got in 9th grade, there was this beautiful girl who just reeked feminism, and I just saw her and I was like, oh, I like that.
But healthy feminism.
Yeah, healthy. And so I was like, I like this. So I went from Tim's and the polos, y'all, and chap jackets, just the whole nine. I had my pants starched down, just like a guy. And so I switched, and then I started doing micro braids, started buying my own clothes. And back in the day, it was New York and Company that was there. And I started doing that and bought my own prom dress, my own school uniforms, eventually my first car. I saved money up and I had an Adidas box, and I put my money in there and bought my first car.
Wow, what kind of car was it?
Nissan, a red Nissan 93.
Okay.
My brother put limo 10 on it. With some 12 in the trunk. And so I rode that one till somebody ran into me, and then I got another car. My stepdad he signed his name on that one. And so by the time I was 17, I was in my second car, had moved from home, moved to Jackson. So I came here, I was still a minor when I came here. And the goal was, hey, you gotta eat. And so I came here, I started working at the it was a grocery store on 55. And I worked there and went next door to Steinmart. And I slept on my friend's brother was here. He's in the military, and so he wasn't home often. So I would sleep on his floor, his couch, whatever we could do, until the Palisades allowed us to move in August. And so I did that. I worked on many jobs here: country club, New York and Company, daycare. I wanted to wear scrubs, so I worked at the daycare. Just a lot of little things that I did to get here. But the last story I want to tell you though is you're talking to somebody who never really had enough and always made it work, right? Right. So when I did leave college and I talked to Dr. Lackey and told him I wanted to go to law school, and he put me in contact with Andrea Love.
Now, one thing I love a lot about the Lord. But no matter where I've been, God has always put the right people
in the right place,
at the right time. And that's been an amazing journey. So to hear you bring up folks like Dr. Lackey and other folks, talk about how those relationships have evolved you personally and professionally.
It allows me to be who I needed when I was younger. So when a young person comes to me and say, oh, I want to be a lawyer, come on, let's go. Let's get coffee right now. Let's not waste no time. Let me bring you to the courtroom right now. Because I hadn't met a lawyer. By the time I got to college, I still hadn't met a lawyer. So Dr. Lackey wasn't a lawyer, keep in mind. Hadn't been to a law school either. And so when he showed me, he said, Southern is having a pre-law day, you gotta go here. So I already got my own car. So it was nothing for me to gas my car up and go to Baton Rouge and, sight some scenes, like let's go do this adventure. And I went there, and I remember sitting in the classroom and Professor North, he was there. He said, I'm supposed to come here and tell y'all to come here. He said, but let me tell you something. If you don't eat, sleep, and breathe law, don't come here. I said, I gotta come here. Seriousness of purpose. People who were destined to, the purpose to be somewhere. And so I got there, and law school wasn't easy. I had my son my last year, second semester of law school. Had it all planned out, y'all. Thought I was engaged in some more things and all work out. And but I ended up, and this is one of those stories where it's like you didn't have enough, but God made a way. They tell you you're supposed to study 12 hours a day to pass the bar exam. Mind you, I went to school in Louisiana, right? So I come taking the Mississippi bar. I only could study maybe about 4 hours. I had to take a $5 entry shot, make sure he was asleep. He was about 10 months old at the time. 7 months, because he was 10 months by the time I ended up passing the bar. But I remember, y'all, not having $5 to pay for the Wi-Fi while I was in the coffee shop. Wow. I said, I had my EBT card, and mind you, I got 2 degrees. I got a bachelor's and Juris Doctorate, but I'm overqualified for regular jobs, underqualified to be a lawyer because I don't have my bar. So
you got 2 degrees, sitting in the coffee shop, new mom, and you didn't have $5.
I didn't have $5, and I just started crying. She told me I had to leave, and I cried. I'm like, ma'am, I'm trying. Like, you have no idea. I didn't get through law school. You know, I'm at the peak end.
Right.
And it's like, that's why I say you have to be careful how you treat people. You never know people's journey, right?
That's right.
And so, like I said, I recall I shared a bed with my mom.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm studying the bar exam in the bed with my, you know how humble you gotta be.
It's your mom and a baby.
Yeah, and a baby, right?
Right.
And so, but guess who passed the bar exam the first time?
Nah.
That's what I'm saying. And I didn't do what they say you're supposed to do, right? I didn't study as long as they say you're supposed to. I didn't have the money, right? But at the end of the day, I'm here now. And so that's why, you know, I rarely take no for an answer. And that's why even when there's not enough, I take it as a challenge.
Let me ask you this. What would you say to young people, especially young ladies who are on the same pursuit of being one and trying to fulfill what God has in heart, and life happens, you know, and pregnancy or relationships and things. What would you say to someone who's dealing with that right now?
Dream, struggle, prize. For every dream, there's got to be a struggle. You got to get to the struggle to get to the prize. And time's gonna pass anyway.
That's right.
So you may as well go ahead and undo it. But struggles are designed to set us apart and say, who do you really want or you don't want, right? But all this thing about money and time, that's an illusion. Follow your dreams no matter what. No matter what. If you find because here's the thing, you may lose some battles, but you end up winning the war then, right? So please follow your dreams and do it because it's purpose to do it. You know it's your purpose when you do it for free. That's why I can go in private practice, y'all, because I'd be poor. Because I would be trying to do it for free or do it for less than what normally I should be charging people. But find your purpose. If you do it for free, that's your purpose.
You know, there's a lot of synergy in your story and some things that I'm dealing with in life. And I'm sure folks out there, I see folks commenting on here, you know, and sharing. This is probably, we got more views we normally have. I'm going to invite you back. But talk about a little bit about where you see our community in the legal space, just as a community, not as an individual case, but just how are we maneuvering? How are we? Are you following where I'm going with this? Elaborate, kind of help me.
And let me know if I'm still following you. I'm coming off a high of celebrating Medgar Evers' birth and death, right? My Instagram name is I Have a Dream. That's how deep I am about Martin, Malcolm, people like that. And where I see us as a legal community, I feel like is more of a selfish. We're selfish in legal and politics too. And we commemorate folk like Medgar for not being selfish. But then when you have modern day Meggers who decide to take up the totem pole like me, right? Oh, we don't subscribe. You know, you're in the way. It's not your time. And so I want us to get to a point where Black folks have been through so much. I'm reading Medgar and Merle's book now. And there was a story in there where a man was shot dead as he was walking into the courthouse to turn in absentee votes. As the sheriff was standing there watching. Guess what? He didn't do anything about it. Shot dead. Then you got a man who was 41 years old. This is the same book. And he was arguing with the white lady on the sidewalk. They hooked him up to a truck, drove him through Decatur, Mississippi, got to a stopping point, shot holes in his body, took off his clothes, and hung him on a fence for a year to show Black folk what would happen if they did the same thing. So when those kind of stories that are out there, or the 13th Amendment, right, and on Netflix, when you know that the whole point of systems, right, is just to decorate what was already once was slavery, right, and it's to just change the cloth of it. And when you operate from that factory setting, you have a whole different perspective on how you do things. And so for me, I always remember the struggles that Black folk have come from before, and so I would never, it never comes dawns on me to try to cause friction for another Black person. We've been through too much, and so some of us, we get Mercedes and we get the degree and we like, oh, we made it. You didn't make it. There's so many systems in place. There's an illusion of freedom, right? But there's no real freedom happening.
You know, I say a lot, and people ask me to come talk all the time about different things. But I was in Toronto and I said, you know, America may have abolished slavery, but they enslaved everybody. You know, after the Civil Wars, when they created the IRS,
All of that.
All of these things.
Think about escrow. Without house. That's a way to get us mortgage out of the house that we first once qualified for. Then they'll say, hey, you were short in escrow.
Right. So beyond the Black community, just community period, there's been an injustice across the board. What would you say to someone of how they should approach the justice system? Take a moment to just educate folks on what they should do to navigate the justice system appropriately, not about your qualifications and right. But just what would you say to someone, since you've ushered people through the system as an attorney, what would you say to people of how they should approach the justice system when they are encountering the system of the justice system?
Are we talking about criminal or civil?
Well, just both. Just talk civil first.
Okay. So you definitely need to get an attorney first. A lot of times, criminal or civil, get an attorney first. A lot of times, insurance companies like the police. Whatever you say can and will be used against you, right? Right? So you want to get you an attorney who's well versed and well qualified in that particular area, whatever area you decide to go with. Your criminal lawyer can't always be a civil lawyer, right? Your bankruptcy lawyer can't always be the escrow lawyer, real estate lawyer. And so you want to first educate yourself on who your lawyer is. Don't talk. So you talk to a lawyer and then they'll navigate you through the process. When it comes to criminal, oftentimes the criminal lawyer, you don't have time to find a lawyer first. Yeah. Civilly, you can think about it, man, I'm going through X, Y, and Z. I'm gonna call somebody next month, next week when I get to it. Criminally, you may find yourself walking down the street now, right? And you want to just, as a Black person, you just don't try to argue on the side of the road. And there's some fine officers out there. I work for JPD, but there's also, you never know what's on somebody's mind. You don't want to argue on the side of the road. And so you go through the process, get your court papers, get your date, and then talk to your lawyer and say what's going on. As a public defender, when I was a public defender, one of the things that you had to have an eye for and an ear for is telling the story, meeting somebody in 5 minutes, if you had that much time, and find out how to tell a story to the judge to get them out on bond.
Really? So I see that when people say that, but in reality, public defenders have how much prep time?
Yeah.
Talk about that.
So for example, and I was a public defender at Hinds County as well. So we would get a docket that morning, 9 o'clock in the morning, and we would come over. So we got like maybe 15 people on the docket. And so when we come over there, they're in red, orange, whatever suit they're in, and they're already shackled. And so you walk in hustling, bustling, and you like, just gonna have a moment to talk to so-and-so. So now you got 15 people to talk to. It might be one of you. So you go to, you would try to figure out who has the biggest issue, right? And try to focus on him, right? Say, hey, real quick, where do you work? Where did you go to school? Do you have a degree? Do you have kids? Is there anybody who's on, are you on disability, right? Is there anything that would affect that you would lose if you stayed another day in jail, right? And so quickly they'll say, oh, I'm on disability. Or they would say, hey, I got a child who I take care of, a mom who's quadriplegic. And so you got to real quick turn that into a story and come back to the judge and say, hey, this is John Doe. John Doe never been in trouble, not a flight risk, not danger. The community has to be, his child is now waiting for him to come home. She's in school right now. His mom is quadriplegic. We asked for a reasonable bond. What's reasonable? But at this point, he can definitely afford $5,000 or $5,000 bond. And so you don't want to just throw out a random number that he can't afford. You want to ask him, what can you afford comfortably today? And you ask the judge for that. And you can sometimes penetrate the judge's heart and get what you need.
So let me reverse it around. So if people are going through these systems, what should the average person know who would be subjected to getting a public defender? What should they know?
Public defenders are lawyers. They are qualified to do it. Some people are purposed to do it. And they do.
Since they have such a short time period,
short time.
If somebody is going, gets involved, this is just maybe random information folks should know. Okay. But if you know you probably need a public defender, you're going to need to, you don't have 5 minutes. So you can't just be beating around the bush to get into pertinent information that this attorney needs to champion on your cause. So if someone would be needing a public defender, what do they need to have to say about them and their case to make sure they maximize that small window of time they have?
So the small window of time is just for bond purposes. I don't want to know all the facts and how you get to what you got to today. We're going to try to get you out of jail as quick as possible. But let's say that you get a bond, no bond. Let's say you got charged with murder, aggravated assault. You're not likely, hey, sir, you might gonna get a high bond you can't afford. And then in my case, they would transfer them back to the jail. And so I would, within 24, 48 hours, would go to the jail and then find out the pertinent information from them.
Right.
And then I would go out and do my own investigation because, again, we got 2 investigators with 13, 15 attorneys. And so I would go out and do my own investigation. And I would tell you who I practiced in front of and got the most success. Judge Priester. Super, super fair. If it wasn't there, it wasn't there. And so a lot of cases got dismissed at preliminary hearing, and so many attorneys waived the preliminary hearing. And if you look at the justice system as like the first door you get into is initial appearance, the second door, second opportunity to go home, preliminary hearing. After that, you wait on trial or to be indicted. So that could be 2 years from now. So it's so important as a criminal defense attorney to take advantage of those first 2 court settings. And then also particularly know that you're what kind of case you're dealing with, because if it's one of those cases that have all the facts, a criminal case, a case like murder or whatnot, you want to transfer it to county court. Why? Because you want to get it on record.
Okay. Yeah. So I know this is not the way you normally do interviews.
I love it. This is probably one of the best interviews. I'm glad because I feel like they got information that helps them, you know.
Well, I'm trying to also, I'm not your political consultant. You didn't pay me. But I do know that when people get a chance to get to know the person, what they're doing, we can work that out.
Exactly. That's true. That's true.
All right. See, facts tell, but stories that are connected. And I know pieces of your story, and I learned some things today. But this is advice. Like I said, I don't know much about politics. Lady Cherie, I don't know too much about getting elected. I don't know too much. But I do know that when people see your passion and they follow your footsteps, and they can see your journey through life. Lawyers have a hard time getting elected because y'all like to make your case. And that's important. You know, have your facts and figures in order.
All right, good stuff.
And I'm not saying don't do that. Do that and have that for those moments. But at WMPR, folks who listen to this radio is outside changing the oil in the tractor. They getting stuff together. They in the garage trying to clean some stuff up before they go in the house because they know it's a pressure cooker in there. All right, you got some stuff going on. And I ain't just been to go in the house just yet. Bills due. We got problems to deal with, children in the house, spouse, significant other in the house. I'm just gonna sit here and watch his car until I get myself together. And I'm gonna go turn this radio on and see what Stam's talking about. I got preachers who done changed Bible study time from 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock. So they can see what's going on and what's happening. So in these spaces, we just want to get to know you. And you will find that people vote for who they know. People vote for who they like. People vote for who they trust. And once you can develop a relationship of know, like, and trust from a genuine place, because people know when you're faking this shit. Right. Especially folks who listen to that point a lot.
Right.
They listen to enough people talking noise.
Exactly.
And they can filter through. Right. This person just got facts and figures and they're gonna go to the house. Right.
Yeah.
But this person has a similar journey. And one thing I can say, like I said, I know all the folks in this race, and I'm cool with everybody, and everybody welcome to come by. But Bridgette Morgan has that dog in her, right? Because very few people know what it's like being the one in your circle that has to make it happen. You know, like I said, I was just on a call earlier. There's very few people I can vent to in that space. And to hear your journey from 5 years old, matriculating through the whole system, sleeping on a friend's floor and couch, and and then having 2 degrees, but not having $5 in your pocket to pay for the Wi-Fi to study for your courses, but to still be on the journey. And I remember when you came to work for the city, and I was on the city council at the time, and just to kind of see you matriculate through over the years. How long you been in the city?
Since 18.
18. Yeah. So to kind of see you matriculate through, what did you learn the first time you ran?
Ooh, I learned.
Because see, before you run for office, it's a whole different conversation. Right?
Come on now.
People say a whole lot about it, but before you run for office, you got one thing in your mind. All right, let me catch this caller here. Hello, caller. Welcome to the show. What's your question or comment?
Hello, good evening, Mr. Commissioner. How you doing?
Doing well, dear. How are you?
I'm doing well. I got to give you a call later on sometime this week.
Well,
Probably next
my
week.
number ain't changed, baby.
I know it. But I got a question for you, for your guest that's there tonight, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Okay. Ms. Morgan, I was calling to ask a couple questions. I'm gonna make it quick. And I know Mr. Commissioner had spoken about, you know, how I guess adamant and passionate you about running in this race. But my question's for you, and you had said that, you know, how your upbringing and all that, you know, that came up and stuff. But how different is it that your fight is different from the same people in the district that you're running in? Because we all have that tenacious fight in us when we're trying to get to that better place, to a better place where we came from. So how different is it that, and how can you help once you get elected to that office, that seat? Before this race had happened, took place or taken place, I didn't know anything about Ms. Bridgette Morgan. But as the time go on, I'm learning that about different, you know, going in this race. And I just want to know, can you, as a voter, as someone who pays attention to 9.1, and especially Mr. Commissioner's radio station and a couple more, I want you to tell me and encourage me, why should I go out and vote for Bridgette Morgan as opposed to someone else that's in the race? Because again, your fight is no different than mine, especially because I'm trying to come up too. And also, when you get on that bench, are you trying to get on there because you trying to? When I see a lawyer trying to be a judge, and especially being a public defender, is because you've seen that so much of lenience has happened with the Black community or what's going in the courtroom, and you trying to put more of our kids in jail. Or talk to me about that. All right, I'm gonna hang up and listen to your response.
Yes, ma'am. Take care. I know she asked a lot, but go ahead and
I'll try to cover it. I think she may have said something about being a public defender. Am I too lenient, or would I put more of the kids in jail? I've also been a prosecutor. I've been a prosecutor longer than I've been a public defender. So I've seen both sides, and I'm the police attorney. So I know for a fact neither opponent in the race has seen all sides of justice in the way that I have. Being able to see what a victim feels like. I put one of the cases that is still going on now. The young lady and the family has given me permission to talk about this, but Latasha Crump-Coleman is a person that's still missing. That was a case that I worked up. And so I went to trial in her absence, and we got him 6 months in jail, right? That's the most you can get as a misdemeanor. So so that's one case. Then you talk about being a public defender for 3 years, half of the time that I've been a prosecutor. So I'm fair on both sides. There's never one time I come in the courtroom, I'm trying to figure out, well, how can I win? It's not about winning, it's about justice. There are times as a prosecutor where I've come to court and a lady was mad at a man because he don't want anymore and filed charges on him. You got to have discernment enough to be able to discern if these charges are real, do we have the evidence for it, and be able to say, hey, judge, we can't prosecute this, right? So to answer that, but to answer your other question about why am I different from anybody else is I don't know the other opponent's journey. They're men, right? So the first difference is that I'm a woman. And the second difference would be that I think for the most part, I'm not trying to campaign for either one of them, but I think for the most part, they come from a different place of privilege. And I say that because I think one has some lawyers in their family and some civil rights leaders, I think, of some kind in their family. I'm not particularly sure. Then there's one who's way much older than us, who has a whole different culture and a whole different background and has done some things. So again, I come from a place of just poverty, just to be honest with you, right? And so nobody has taught me how to get here. It's simple. It's pure grit. It's knowing the Black folks story and being able to try to be the one to be fair. And I don't care if I'm a judge or if I'm a prosecutor, a public defender, the police attorney. I don't care where I am. I could be in the grocery store. I operate on a spirit of excellence. That means that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do even when no one is looking. I tell my students that all the time. Joel Osteen was a pastor, and he spoke about being in the grocery store. This is an example of a spirit of excellence. Going to the grocery store and you got a pack of meat, and you decide when you get to the cereal aisle, I don't want this meat. Are you gonna put the meat on the cereal aisle and hide it behind the Frosted Flakes, or are you gonna take it back to the freezer? Mm-hmm. That's a spirit of excellence. So that's the difference between me and the other opponents. I don't need to put myself in a place where I'm taking advantage of anyone. I don't need to, and this is petty. You know, I don't think that it's petty, but it could be. I don't need to steal anybody's signs, right? To try and get a leg up. There's nothing about me that wants to get a leg up. I want to win this race fair and square. I hope that you'll continue to follow me on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, and follow my journey to learn more, because you can't get everything from me in this 1 hour that we're here with Commissioner Stamps. But I mean, I want you to pray and ask God for discernment. And I am a woman of faith, and I believe that if you ask God for who am I to vote for on November the 5th, I guarantee you, when it comes to somebody who's fair and who's going to do the right job, God's going to give you my name. And so that's where I am with that position.
Okay, to wrap it all up, because I do have a couple things I need to talk about. You just said it a second ago, but tell the folks what you want to do, when you want to do it, and how can people contact you or follow you for more information.
Right, so I want you to vote for Bridgette M. Morgan for Hinds County Court Judge, Subdistrict 2. That's Bridgette M. Morgan, like Morgan for the people. You can find me on Facebook, elect Bridgette M. Morgan. You can find me on Instagram, elect Morgan for Judge. If you want to email me, caller, email me at electmorganforjudge@gmail.com. I have no problem meeting you for breakfast, lunch, whatever you want to do, just to kind of talk about more about who I am. Also, I have a campaign number, 769-218-8677.
One more time, real slow.
769-218-8677 is my campaign number. Email electmorganforjudge@gmail.com.
Now, this is a call I have not heard in a while, and I asked Jason just a few weeks ago, turn your radio down a little bit, Cab Man. I asked Jason, I said, man, Cab Man hadn't called a show in a minute. Well, how you doing, Cab Man?
I've been trying to call, but sometimes the call gets shaking up, so it cut me off. So, and I've been trying to call several times on WNBI, but seems like there's some type of phone problem.
How you doing, Cab Man?
What you got, Cab Man?
Your guest, the lady that is running for judge, I was listening to her respond to the last call, and she was talking about fairness in the system. And that's kind of struck a chord with me, because she said she's been a prosecutor, now she's running for a judge, she's been a public defender, etc. When you use the word fair, now are you speaking about the system, yourself, the victims, and the accused? When you use that word fair, are you speaking about all of those?
Speaking about all the above, fairness comes when you take the facts and the law as they are and you decide the case. Not about what relationships you have, what political end you want to reach, who's in the courtroom. A lot of times people make decisions based on what news person is in the courtroom. So fair based on the facts and the law for all sides.
Okay, now that word fair, it also makes me wonder again, you trying to tell us that the reason why you're running because you don't think the system that's in place here in the city, or the county, or the state is a fair system to the accusers, to the victims, to the system itself. So what do you, if you have a yes or no to that question, what are you going to bring to the system in order to make it better?
Okay, so it depends on what side you're on with how you see fairness. When I was a prosecutor, fairness to me was making sure that the victim.
Go ahead.
was making sure that the victim, got their end right, without violating the rights of the defendant. And so that's what I mean when it comes down to fairness. And I think I didn't get your last part of the question you asked.
But just overall fairness.
What is your opinion? I don't have one more follow-up question. The way this system is now, from the Supreme Court all the way down to the Appellate Court, Fifth Circuit, what is your feeling now? And when you see this happening in America, what is your intent? Your output about being a judge?
So,
I mean, are these judges now, can we say they're following the rule of the law, they're following the political rule of the law?
and that's what I've been saying this entire time. I believe Mr. Brooks, caller that's on the phone, that's what I've been saying the entire time, is that politics should have never been a part of the judicial system. And so my goal, if I'm elected, is to keep politics out of the courtroom, right? And that's what I mean by being fair, that I'm not moved and making decisions based on politics, based on relationships, based on who I owe. I don't owe anybody anything. So I can come here and see the case for what it is and decide.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Sam, thank you for allowing me to come on once again. And it's always nice to hear you. You're a wonderful contributor. You're a wonderful addition to the state of Mississippi. And I know you have our back. So thank you again, sir.
I appreciate you, Cap, man. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna hold back on the call just for a second because I got something that's very important. I only got 9 minutes left to go on this show that I gotta explain. Don't go anywhere. But so thank you, Ms. Morgan, for giving us some time. But I do want to address something that's been pertinent that's in my actual role. And I know I've been here every week for 11, 12 years now. But last week, we issued something that was very important. I got to explain why we did it. Well, last week, we issued a new area code for the state of Mississippi. That area code is going to be covering the same area as the 662 area code. Part of our role at the Public Service Commission is to do high-level decisions. And some people have been calling the office and saying, why are y'all focused on that? Aren't there more important things to do? Why is it important? Well, it's important for this reason. When you first had a 601 and that was it, well, most folks just had one phone in the house. And in some cases, like when I was growing up, I had to call my aunt. I had to call her neighbor because there was only one person on her block with a phone. And you had to call them and say, hey, wake up, go down the street and get somebody to come to the phone. Well, in today's society, like me personally, I got a work phone, I got a personal phone, my iPad has a data plan, so it means it's got a phone. There you go. If I had an Apple Watch, it's got a phone number. So now you end up in situations where you have everybody in the house has a phone, but then they may have these other data devices as well, and each one of those devices have a phone. So you have a situation where the average person has 2, 3 phone numbers, sometimes 4 of them. If you got an Apple Watch, an iPad, and 2 cell phones, one person got 4 numbers. So we identified when we first came in office that the 662 area code was going to run out in a very short period of time. And people would go to get a phone and can't get one if you live in the Delta. You won't be able to get a phone. And it may sound simple, but it's important. And that's why our office is moving towards making the Public Service Commissions solve the major problems of Mississippi and not just being the person you call or used to call for robocalls and trying to get an extension on your light bill, because there are major higher level issues that need to be resolved. And that's just not something that's quick to do. It's taking us 6 months to do it, or 5 months to do it. But those are the high level things that we are responsible for. And that's why those decisions were made. And so I just wanted to take a moment to explain that, since we got so many people were feeling a little bit indifferent, why you should do it, why'd you pick that number? I wasn't really tied up on what number was chosen. I just know that folks in the Delta need to be able to get a phone. And now at the current trajectory, that phone won't expire until 2045. So, you know.
It's all about transparency.
Right. I just want to give an explanation.
That's it.
Since so many people online were kind of like, when they sent the release out, people made, thousands of people shared the information, but people didn't really understand how we're missing some basic things. And I appreciate the public utility staff and everyone involved to even make that even possible for us to continue to move forward. Our docket meeting this past Tuesday went well, and you can go on YouTube and take a look at it. And we got some pretty exciting things coming up in the very near future. Folks in Holly Springs have a bill that's coming before the governor's desk on Monday. And so then folks in the Delta, we're still working on the groundbreaking for the Amazon production plant in Washington County, right where you're from. $1 billion is going right in Washington County to build a new production facility for electrical power. And so we keep working. We're going to be closed on tomorrow and Friday in observance for Independence Day. And so we'll be back rocking and rolling Monday morning. As always, we're always accessible. You can give our office a call for your needs, but we're starting to focus on the high level needs of the state of Mississippi and not just reduce ourselves to just doing the day-to-day things, because we got some higher level industries and higher level problems that need to be solved across our state. And those announcements will be forthcoming next week. Any last words, Ms. Martin?
I was just thinking, my son had something to say, but before he said something, I was thinking about what the previous caller said, the young lady. And she said, what would you do? How would you be different? How are you different from the others? And I can guarantee that you'll get what you vote for, right? Oftentimes, I know I've talked to people on the campaign trail, they're tired. They're tired of the same old, they're tired of the buddy system, they're tired of this and that. And so I know for a fact that I'm a breath of fresh air for Hinds County. And ready to do the work. And I guarantee you 4 years from now, you won't be saying, oh, I regret that vote.
Now, one thing I want you to do, and whoever gets this role, one thing about Judge Loretta Cooper Stokes, she was applauded for the swiftness of her trials and the work.
Yes.
Before she got elected, I remember there was a situation we had, because her and I served on the city council together. Mm-hmm. People were in jail in Hinds County, innocent, for 5 and 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that's ridiculous. The Constitution says you're supposed to have a speedy trial.
Mm-hmm.
So no matter who fins this thing, that problem must stop. Mm-hmm. Give your son some parting comments, young man. You got something you want to say? Come on up real quick. We got about 3 minutes to go. Yeah, that right there.
My name is Jackson, and this is all I'm asking. Please vote for my mom. That's the reason I wrote this song, but I won't be wrong. Don't hold her grudge. Vote for her to be judged. So vote for my mom at BridgetteMorgan.com.
That rhymes.
Teamwork, man.
Teamwork. So, ladies, parting words, Jason.
I would say this. I guess no struggle, no progress. So keep on pushing it forward, man.
We got one last call. Let me see here.
I took the commission.
Right. Okay, caller. Hello, welcome to the show. Hello, you're live on air, call. We got 2 minutes left to go. What you got?
Okay, I'll just get to the point. Good evening. I'm always informed.
Hey, Ms. Chapman, how you doing?
My question is just simple to the point. I want to know how the judge started morning out.
Okay.
I know I have a question, but it's very important that I know that how she stay out. And I'm hanging up to listen.
Okay.
All right, so I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I stretch, I take a walk just to meditate, listen to a gospel song, or just listen to the birds speaking and see what God has for me in the morning. And then once I'm done with it, I'll try to do a 15-minute workout if I can get that in, and do my makeup, hair, get ready for work. Don't cook breakfast because I'm trying to run out the door. But for the most part, I get up at 5 o'clock every morning. I started there a couple of years ago. But it's so important that I when you get up those first few minutes of the day and just get quiet, you really have a good day. So I'm disciplined in that area. That's a good question. Thank you.
All right. Well, I want to end by saying we got a lot of work to do. and a lot of issues to resolve. As we go through this election season, Washington, D.C. is very disappointing. But we got to focus on what we got going on locally. Okay? Washington, D.C. going to be Washington, D.C. But we're going to focus. Now, we are abreast of what's going on in D.C. because it affects us all.
Yes, sir.
But don't get so tied up in what's going on in Washington that we lose what's going on in our house, with our children, our families, because we are the most distracted generation in history.
Yes.
From NFL to NBA to college football to politics. Talk to your children. See what's going on in your house. And then focus on creating economy, jobs, and prospering in the role that you are in. And don't just get googly-eyed. Because one thing that I know about national politics, one of their biggest responsibilities to do what they do and the manipulation they put out there is to distract the masses. Let me say it again. One of the biggest jobs that Washington, D.C. does is distract the masses. So make sure you stay focused on your life, your local politics, and your community. God bless. And remember, never let anybody put you in a position when you don't love your own people. Because when you hate your own folks, you're part of the very oppression we're trying to lift ourselves out of. I love you, Jackson. I love you, Mississippi. And also, I love our underwriters, Mr. Michael Jordan, Transportation Services, Stamp SuperBurgers. God bless, Godspeed. We'll see y'all next week.
Peace.
Lady Cherie, get us out of here, baby.